We were Central Illinois agriculture source, and in the Midwest alongside in Central Illinois agriculture, we're glad you're here. Oh man. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report is pretty bearish from yesterday's report from the Department of Agriculture. The cattle markets are trading higher than expected after the H5N1 news over the weekend after this death case in Mexico. We should have a good weather conditions, but it is going to pretty warm temperature range of the 9th and upper 80 degree in the Midwest alongside with the crop conditions. The CPI numbers from the Federal Reserve. It was pretty good from the Federal Reserve. Speaking that we were going to talk with Garrett, toda from Ag Trader, talk with O'Brien Markets in Waterman, Illinois. Stay tuned for that. This time is for your agricultural news and markets update on back roads of Illinois. The wheat markets has continued to decrease in the futures for the wheat markets. Russia has issues with their wheat crop for right now alongside with the weather in Russia. It's pretty disappointing numbers in Russia. However, U.S. wheat harvest season is underway in Kansas and Nebraska. The World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report were bearish from yesterday's report from the Department of Agriculture. The number was pretty dull for the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimate report. The Farm Bill is underway in the Senate Agricultural Committee in Washington. Senator Stabenow from Michigan. She talks with Senator Chuck Grassley from Iowa about the CPR program with funds for the SNAP program from the Department of Agriculture. This time is for your agricultural commodity markets update minute on back roads of Illinois. Corn futures finished in up 3 to 4 cents. Wheat futures finished in down 3 to 4 cents. Soybean futures finished in mixed 8 to 10 cents. Now that we are going to talk about the livestock market for today on this morning, cattle finished in down 8 to 10 cents per weight. Feeder cattle finished in down 8 to 9 cents per weight. Lean hogs finished in down 3 to 4 cents. West Texas crude oil finished in up 3 to 4 cents per barrel. Dow Jones finished in up 3 points. We were coming back with Garrett toda from Ag Talk Trader. Stay tuned on back roads of Illinois. I'm joining with Garrett toda from Ag Trader Talk. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. It's starting to warm up here in Northern Illinois after a fairly wet spring. So I think we're welcoming that.
Let's start with our conversation about the world agricultural supply and demand from yesterday. How did you subscribe with that?
Well, it was kind of a ho-hum report. The USDA made very little changes to the corn S&Ds. In fact, they made no changes to the US S&Ds whatsoever. They did make some changes to the world numbers, just minor though. They raised Ukraine new crop estimates by 0.7 to 27.7 million metric ton, and they raised Ukraine exports as well. But I think the trade was looking for reductions in South America, and that was not realized. This report was largely a wheat report, if you will. Considering the drought and the frost in in Russia. You know, a lot of the private estimates are down to 80 million metric ton, and the USDA in May was at 88 million metric tons. So I think the trade was looking to see how the USDA would address that, and they ended up cutting Russian wheat by only 5 million metric ton to 83, and cut exports by 4. So I think that that was, you know, a stair-step approach. You know, as you know, the Russian wheat market kind of dictates the world wheat trade. The USDA only made minor changes to the U.S. Carry out. They raised wheat yields by a half a bushel to 49.4 bushel per acre, and production by 17 million bushel. And carryout was actually cut by 8 million bushel to 758 million bushel. But at the same time, even though that's a minor reduction, because the Russian wheat changes, they raised on-farm price by 50 cents a bushel, and that's a substantial increase in price relative to just the changes here in the U.S. So it tells you that we're kind of, you know, following the world prices out here.
Yes, I heard about that as unchanged as well. Otherwise, the commodity markets is up for today.
Yes, a nice rally today. You know, a little bit of short covering. I think the main focus is going to be on the acreage and stocks reports at the end of the month. Perhaps a little bit of concern about this heat that's coming in the forecast, but considering the lateness of crops, I think the majority view is heat's going to be beneficial. You got to kind of keep an eye on this upper level high that's over the southwest U.S. that's creating these triple digit heat in Arizona that could potentially move north, and that could impact the U.S. growing season. But right now the markets remains mostly range bound and within a consolidative range.
How is the growing season in northern Illinois near DeKalb and Rockford?
It has it's been an interesting year. It's been wet. You know, we basically got about a week's window to get the crops in, and I think the producers did a very good job of getting that in. And now it's kind of turned off a little bit dry, and I think that's a bit of a concern or in the back of most producers' minds. Is that you know, there may have been some crops that were planted in less than ideal conditions because, you know, we got that short window and it might have been mudded in. And that you know, maybe a crusting issue, but you know, for the most part, you know, as you can tell with conditions, the stuff that is up looks very good, and I think we have you know, fairly decent potential at this point. That you know, everyone was watching for the differences between the USDA and CONAB as far as the soybean production estimates, and they continue to move closer together, even though you know, they still are fairly wide for June numbers. CONAB cut Brazilian soybeans by 0.3 million metric ton to 147.364 million metric tons. So that's down about 7.3 million metric tons from last year. And the big story over the last month and a half has been the flooding in Rio Grande do Sul. And they did cut Rio Grande do Sul by 1.238 million metric ton, but they offset that with increases in Mato Grosso. And the same can be said for the corn crop. They actually raised the corn crop by 2.5 million metric ton to 114.1 million metric ton, and they cut Rio Grande do Sul in the southern areas, but Mato Grosso production was up almost 3 million metric ton, and that's where the majority of the increases came from.
It been really wet in Mato Grosso since December.
Yes, it's been an interesting year just for them, just as it has been for us. they've had it's even you look at the safrinha crop in corn, they're not getting a lot of rain and there's some dry areas. These adjustments are largely acreage still because the crop was just planted here in the last 30 to 45 days. When we get into the next 30 to 45 days in the future, that will determine where we're at on this final corn crop.
Is there anything would you like to go to be telling our listeners about the heifer and fat cattle markets?
Yes. We had a nice rally in the fats today. I saw Nebraska Packers were offering 193, which would be a new record high for cash trade, and it's Thursday. We had kind of the trade this week had largely been softer. It felt like the market wanted to get sold down here, lack of follow through, kind of some seasonals building in here, but this cash is supporting the market again, and I think that keeps the back end supported. But like I said, it's kind of a seasonal time period where you've got the new crop calf market on the getting started in here. We had a significant sell-off in the feeder market here in the last week to 10 days. We recouped about 2/3 of that, and this rally in fats has supported the feeders. That break in the feeder market gave that cattle crush number a pretty significant level to hedge some fats in cattle here over the last 10 days, especially with the corn being under pressure. So I think these are decent levels. December fat cattle at 185, the 186 would be around the old all-time highs for the cash index. So if you can get those numbers hedged, you're going to probably be better off than you've been ever in the past. So and if that's your minimum price, you can't be mad at that.
With the bird flu and dairy herd and livestock.
The avian flu situation is ongoing, but it's largely just been a headline issue. I don't think that overall the general tightness of the cattle market, and surprisingly considering the economy, the demand for beef has still been fairly strong. I think it gives an opportunity that the avian flu, as long as it stays in the situation that it is now, and it is not get into a human to human transfer, I don't think it's going to have that big of an impact on the fat cattle market.
Do you have any final thoughts on Brazilian production and weather?
Yes, I think that there's still quite a ways to go on this Brazilian corn crop. And weather can be a major function of that. There's a lot of areas in the central part of the country that remain dry. Like I said earlier, the increase in output today was largely on acreage changes, not so much yield, as they're still determining that. As far as the soybean market, though, something is going on down there. I mean, they've had some tax reform issues that they've been voting on, but the fact that China has bought 6 to 8 cargoes of old crop soybeans out of the U.S. and it's only June, tells you that the Brazilian farmer is holding on the beans. They're probably at unprofitable levels, and that could tighten up the U.S. S&D here a little bit.
I don't like it. I like the cool weather.
You and me both. Yeah, we had temperatures in the 40s earlier this week, and Sunday night, almost needed a blanket. But today's temperatures have reached into the 90s, and it's definitely given us a taste of summer. But I'm with you, Cesar. I prefer the cooler temps.
Thanks, Garrett.
Yes, thank you for having me, Cesar. It's been an honor. I appreciate your invitation.
Hmm. Hmm. This is Garrett Toda from Ag Trader Talk with O'Brien Markets for Back Roads of Illinois. We were coming back with our last segment. Thanks to Garrett Toda. Well, folks, there's our show for today on Back Roads of Illinois. For Back Roads of Illinois, I am Cesar Delgado. Have a good day.